The great chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy. 87 representatives from the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy sat in tiered rows around a central platform. The chamber floated in orbit around Nexus Prime, a neutral world chosen thousands of years ago for its position at the crossroads of major trade routes. Ambassador Kral Thax of the Zornian Empire stood on the platform. His scaled skin glittered under the soft blue lights as he raised all four of his arms for silence. "The time for observation is over," he said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into the standard galactic language. "The humans have expanded beyond their local system. They now threaten the stability of the entire Orion arm. We must act." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Earth had been a topic of debate for 3,000 years. The small blue planet had been discovered during a routine survey, but the primitive creatures living there barely had fire and stone tools. They weren't worth contact, merely observation. Every few centuries, new probes were sent. The humans developed agriculture, then cities, then primitive science. They also fought constant wars among themselves. The Council watched with a mix of fascination and horror as humans split the atom, walked on their moon, and continued to battle each other with increasing deadliness. "They are advancing too quickly," a representative from the Drellid Collective added. "Their technology has jumped forward at an alarming rate in the last century." The observation platforms, hidden throughout the Sol system, had recorded everything. Humans were unpredictable and violent, yet somehow they continued to progress. Many council members agreed. Earth was best left quarantined, a curious but dangerous experiment to be studied from afar. That changed 3 Earth months ago. Captain Jack Freeman guided his ship, the Defiance, through the darkness near Neptune's orbit. It was a routine patrol to check on the mining operations. Jack was bored. Nothing interesting ever happened out here. His sensor officer, Ben Murphy, suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, I'm picking up an unusual energy reading on the far side of Triton." "Probably just equipment from the mining colony," Jack said. "No, sir. It's not human in origin." Jack immediately ordered the Defiance to approach with caution. What they found would change humanity's future forever. A small alien structure embedded in Triton's ice. It was clearly artificial and clearly not made by human hands. On Earth, Carol Winters sat in her office at the Global Defense Alliance headquarters in Geneva. Rain pattered against the windows as she reviewed reports from the outer colonies. The discovery near Neptune had been classified at the highest level, but as Earth's top defense official, she needed to know what they were dealing with. The door to her office slid open. Her assistant looked pale. "Ma'am, there's someone here to see you." The being that entered wasn't human. It stood nearly 7 feet tall with gray-green skin and large black eyes. Carol rose slowly from her chair, her heart pounding. "I bring a message from the Galactic Council," the alien said in perfect English. It handed her a small crystal device. When Carol touched it, a hologram appeared above her desk, a formal declaration of war against Earth and all human colonies. "Your species has discovered our observation post, violating the quarantine," the messenger stated flatly. "The Council has voted. You have 2 Earth weeks to surrender all military capabilities and accept Council governance, or face extinction." After the messenger left, Carol called an emergency meeting with President Eric Morgan and the Joint Chiefs. Within hours, the news spread through secure channels to all Earth governments and colonies. In a hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Commander Dwayne Harris received the alert. He walked through the massive underground hangar where Earth's secret fleet waited. Ships built with technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien vessels over the past century. "It's finally happening," he told his executive officer, Lieutenant Julia Potal. "They've declared war." Julia looked up at the largest ship in the hangar, the Phoenix. "Should we tell them we've known about them for over 200 years? Dwayne smiled grimly. "Let them think we're primitive and helpless. That's exactly what we want them to believe." In the council chamber, Ambassador Kral Thax watched the reports of the war declaration being delivered. Soon, The troublesome humans would be properly controlled. He had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this day for generations. The war had begun, but it would not go as the Council expected. For 1,000 years, the Galactic Council had worked to slow human progress. Their agents sabotaged key research facilities. They caused accidents that killed brilliant scientists. They planted false data in experiments. Despite these efforts, humans kept advancing. What the Council didn't know was that Earth had discovered their interference 2 centuries ago. Dr. Samantha Ellis walked through the secure area of Project Phoenix, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Screens on the walls showed simulations of alien technology. She had spent 15 years studying the Council's communication network after a lucky break, capturing a damaged alien probe. "We're ready to jam their network when the attack begins," she told Commander Harris. "They won't be able to coordinate their ships." Dwayne nodded. "Good. What about our shields?" "We can withstand their standard weapons for about 30 minutes. That should be enough time." Elsewhere in the facility, pilots trained in simulators designed to mimic alien ships. Engineers made final adjustments to Earth's secret fleet. No one outside this base knew the truth. Earth wasn't as helpless as it appeared. In orbit around a distant moon, Kate Richards cleaned the floors of a Council observation post. The aliens saw her as just another servant, a member of a species they had conquered long ago. They never suspected she was human, altered through surgery to look like the Jaxari people. Kate had spent 5 years gathering intelligence. She knew the Council's battle plans, their ship positions, and most importantly, their weaknesses. As she mopped, she listened to the officers discussing the coming war. "The humans won't last a day," one said, laughing through its breathing tubes. Kate kept her eyes down, but smiled inside. She had transmitted Earth's final warning yesterday. The Council was in for a surprise. President Eric Morgan addressed the combined leaders of Earth's nations from a bunker in the Rocky Mountains. "The aliens believe we are primitive and disorganized. This is our advantage." The room was silent as he continued. "Operation Empty Hand will proceed as planned. We will appear weak while striking at their critical systems." General Helen Cooper stood up. "The Mars and Europa colonies are asking about evacuation." "No evacuations," Morgan said firmly. "Everyone has their role to play. Our outer colonies understand their sacrifice may be necessary to sell our deception." In space, the Council fleet gathered. 300 warships, each capable of destroying the city, moved toward the Sol system. Admiral Zex Kalor, a veteran of 12 planetary conquests, led from his flagship. "These humans will be simple to defeat," he told his officers. "Our intelligence shows they have only basic space weapons and no unified defense force." His second-in-command, Vex Nera, wasn't convinced. "Sir, some Council members have warned that humans are unusually adaptable. Perhaps we should proceed with caution." Zex Kalor dismissed her concerns. "They barely have ships that can reach their own moon. Our technology is thousands of years beyond theirs." The first attack came without warning. Council ships appeared near Mars colony, their weapons glowing. The human defenses, a few outdated missile platforms, fired and were quickly destroyed. The colony's governor, Alan Grant, sent a panicked message to Earth. His fear was real. Only he and a few others knew the true plan. Back on Earth, Samantha Ellis watched the incoming data. The Council ships used exactly the communication frequencies she had predicted. She nodded to her team. "Activate the protocol." Throughout the Sol system, hidden devices powered up. Each began broadcasting precisely calculated signals that merged with the Council's communications. On the Council flagship, Zex Kalor was giving orders for the next phase when his screen suddenly went blank. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Our network is experiencing interference," an officer replied. "We can't contact the other ships." Zex Kalor slammed his hand on the console. "Impossible. Their technology can't affect our systems." At that moment, sensors detected movement from Earth. Hundreds of small objects were launching from the planet's surface. Primitive missiles, Zexkiller said with relief. Easily destroyed. But these weren't missiles. As they approached the Council fleet, they suddenly accelerated to speeds no human craft had ever achieved in public. In his command center, Commander Harris watched the first phase of Earth's response unfold. All Phoenix units, he said into his communicator, you are cleared to engage. Show them what humanity can really do. The sky above Mars colony glowed red as Council ships bombarded the surface. Buildings cracked and fell. The dome protecting the main settlement began to fail. Lieutenant Alan Grant led a group of frightened colonists through emergency tunnels. They had practiced this drill many times, but facing real alien invaders was different. Keep moving. Alan shouted over the rumble of explosions. The shelters are just ahead. A young woman carrying a child stumbled. Alan caught them before they fell. We won't make it, she said, tears in her eyes. Yes, we will, Alan replied firmly. Trust me. What he couldn't tell her was that the colony's apparent destruction was part of Earth's plan. The real Mars colony had been moved underground months ago. The buildings above were mostly empty shells. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, Sergeant Lisa Tucker watched alien dropships enter the thick orange atmosphere. Her marine unit was hidden in the methane ice caves that ran beneath the moon's surface. Remember your training, she told her soldiers. Use the fog for cover. Hit fast and disappear. The aliens had expected to find a small mining outpost. Instead, they found a maze of tunnels filled with well-armed humans who knew the terrain perfectly. When the alien forces landed, Lisa's team attacked from multiple directions, then vanished into the thick atmosphere. On their ships, the Council commanders were growing frustrated. These humans fight like cornered animals, Admiral Zexkiller complained to his officers. They have no strategy, no order. But he was wrong. Every human action was carefully planned to create the impression of desperate, disorganized resistance while hiding their true capabilities. Back on Earth, Engineer Paul Carson worked frantically in a control center deep beneath the Himalayas. Around him, technicians monitored screens showing the positions of alien ships approaching Earth. Planetary shield at 80%, a technician called out. Paul nodded. Route more power from the Atlantic generators. We need to be ready when they get here. The shield was Earth's greatest secret, an energy barrier designed to absorb and redirect the aliens' weapons. For decades, humans had built power stations around the planet, disguising them as ordinary facilities. In orbit, the first wave of Council ships appeared. They immediately began firing at Earth's few visible defenses, outdated satellites, and a small space station. These were destroyed within minutes. Admiral Zexkiller watched with satisfaction. Begin bombardment of their major cities. Energy beams lanced toward Earth, but before they could reach the atmosphere, they hit an invisible barrier. The beams scattered harmlessly into space. What is this? Zexkiller demanded. Scan the planet again. In his command ship, Zexkiller pounded his control panel in anger as reports came in from all fronts. The Mars colony was somehow evacuated before they arrived. Their forces on Titan were being picked off by enemies they couldn't see. And now Earth itself was protected by technology that shouldn't exist. Their development must have been faster than we thought, his science officer suggested. Impossible, Zexkiller shouted. We've monitored them for thousands of years. At that moment, alarms blared throughout his ship. Their main communication network had gone completely dark. Without it, the Council fleet couldn't coordinate their attacks. Dr. Samantha Ellis watched her screens with satisfaction. The signal jamming was working better than expected. Phase 1 complete, she reported to Commander Harris. Their fleet is isolated. Each ship can only communicate with those closest to it. Harris smiled grimly. Good. Now we move to Phase 2. He turned to his communications officer. Send the signal to all Phoenix units. Operation Hornet's Nest is a go. Throughout the solar system, Hidden human ships powered up their engines. These weren't the decoys sent earlier. These were Earth's true warships, built with technology reverse-engineered from captured Council vessels. Captain Lauren Mitchell sat in the command chair of the Phoenix flagship. Her crew was ready, trained for years for this moment. "All hands, prepare for combat," she ordered. "Let's show the Council exactly who they're dealing with." The Phoenix fleet rose from hiding places in asteroid belts, beneath the surfaces of moons, and from gas giant storms. 300 ships, each armed with weapons the Council thought humans couldn't possibly possess. The real war was about to begin. Dr. Frank Weber tried not to show fear as alien guards pushed him down a long corridor. The Council ship was cold, and the air smelled like metal and strange chemicals. 2 days ago, his research station on Europa had been captured. The aliens seemed very interested in his work on human DNA. They brought him to a room with a large metal table. A tall alien with 6 eyes waited there. "Sit," the alien ordered through a translation device. Frank sat. He knew his role in Earth's plan. If captured, he was to reveal certain information that would confuse the Council. "You study human biology," the alien said. "Tell us about your weapons research." Frank looked surprised. "Weapons? I don't work on weapons. I study ancient human DNA." The alien didn't believe him. The interrogation lasted hours. They used scanners on his brain, truth drugs, and threats. Eventually, Frank pretended to break. "Fine. I'll tell you what I found," he said, his voice shaking convincingly. "But you won't like it." He explained how his research had uncovered strange markers in human DNA, markers that matched ancient samples found in ruins across the galaxy. "Humans are descendants of the progenitors," he said quietly. The alien interrogator stepped back in shock. The progenitors were a legendary species believed to have created many of the Council races before disappearing 50,000 years ago. "That is impossible," the alien said, but uncertainty crept into its voice. "Test my DNA," Frank suggested. "Look for the marker sequence I described. You'll find it." On the Council homeworld, the news of Frank's claim spread quickly. The High Council held an emergency meeting. "This human scientist must be lying," Ambassador Kralfax insisted. But the tests had been run. Human DNA contained markers that matched ancient progenitor samples kept in the Council's most sacred vaults. "If humans are progenitor descendants, the war is sacrilege," said Vrelnox, a senior Council member. "We must stop the fighting." "No," Kralfax shouted. "The humans are dangerous abominations. If they have progenitor blood, that makes them even more of a threat." The Council chamber erupted into arguments. For the first time in thousands of years, the unity of the Galactic Council was breaking. Vrelnox made a decision. That night, he took his personal ship and fled toward Earth space, carrying crucial information. Human forces captured his ship near Neptune. When they realized he wanted to defect, they'd brought him to Earth headquarters. "The Council is divided," Vrelnox told President Morgan and his advisors. "Many believe your progenitor connection makes you sacred. Others fear it makes you too powerful." "And what do you believe?" Morgan asked. "I believe we should be talking, not fighting," Vrelnox replied. The hardliners led by Kralfax pushed for this war. Many opposed it. Commander Harris studied the alien carefully. "Can you give us tactical information? Fleet positions? Weaknesses?" "Yes," Vrelnox said. "But first I need to know, is it true about your progenitor connection?" Dr. Ellis stepped forward. "We discovered it 50 years ago. We've been searching for more information ever since." This was another layer of Earth's careful plan. The progenitor connection was real, but humanity had known about it for much longer than they admitted. In space, the war was splitting into multiple fronts. Some Council ships continued to attack, while others withdrew in confusion. Kate Richards, the human spy, sent reports that violent disagreements had broken out on several Council worlds. "The Council races are fighting among themselves," she reported. Their unity is fractured. Captain Mitchell of the Phoenix Fleet received new orders from Earth Command. Target only ships loyal to Kralfax. Avoid engaging those who are pulling back. Earth was adapting its strategy, using the religious and political divisions their progenitor revelation had caused. In his flagship, Admiral Zex Kuller watched in dismay as nearly a third of his fleet refused to follow orders. They believed this human trickery about the progenitors, his second-in-command explained. It changes nothing, Zex Kuller growled. Prepare the main fleet for a direct assault on Earth. We will end this before the Council tears itself apart. What he didn't know was that Earth's forces were already moving to intercept him, using the tactics and intelligence provided by Verlox. The war had entered a new phase, and humanity's careful planning was bearing fruit. The time for hiding was over. Earth revealed its full military power in a single coordinated strike. 300 warships emerged from their secret bases, hidden in hollowed-out asteroids and beneath the surfaces of moons. Captain Lauren Mitchell stood on the bridge of the flagship Liberty. Her crew worked calmly around her, preparing for battle. All Phoenix Fleet ships report ready, her first officer said. Lauren nodded. Begin jump sequence. Earth's greatest technological achievement was about to be unveiled. The ship's jump drives could move them instantly across vast distances, bypassing normal space travel limitations. In a flash of blue light, the Phoenix Fleet disappeared from the Sol system. Moments later, they reappeared at the Council's main supply depot orbiting Proxima Centauri. The Council forces stationed there had no warning. They scrambled to raise shields and power weapons, but they were too slow. Target their command centers and weapon platforms only, Lauren ordered. Minimal casualties. The Phoenix ships fired with precision. Within minutes, the Council's largest supply base was disabled. On the Council homeworld, Admiral Teg Voran received the shocking reports. How did humans develop jump technology? He demanded. Our scientists said they were at least 2 centuries away from such discoveries. The truth was painful to accept. The Council had severely underestimated humanity. Their observation posts had only seen what humans wanted them to see. Back on Earth, Commander Harris activated the next phase of their plan. Begin Lazarus Protocol, he ordered. Across 15 Council worlds, hidden human agents received the signal. Some were disguised like Kate Richards. Others were Council members who had been secretly working with Earth for years. They began sabotaging key military installations, releasing classified information, and disrupting command structures. The Council's organized response to Earth fell apart as their leaders couldn't trust their own systems. Ryan Kelly piloted his experimental fighter, the Banshee, through the chaos of space battle near Jupiter. His squadron of 12 fighters faced 30 Council warships, but they had the advantage of surprise. Remember the training, Ryan told his pilots. Unpredictable patterns, close-range attacks. They don't know how to fight against our style. Council ships were designed to battle at long range with precise, calculated movements. Human pilots flew in ways that seemed insane, diving directly at enemy ships, making sudden turns that pushed their ships to the limit, and using Jupiter's strong gravity to slingshot themselves at impossible angles. What are they doing? A Council commander asked as the human fighters danced around his ships. Their maneuvers make no tactical sense. But they did. The human pilots targeted specific weak points on Council ships that Vrelnox had revealed. One by one, the alien vessels lost power or weapons control without being destroyed. Admiral Zex Kuller watched his carefully planned assault on Earth crumble. Half his fleet was stuck fighting in the outer solar system. His supply lines were cut. His communication network was compromised. We must retreat and regroup, his officers urged. Zex Kuller refused. I will not be defeated by primitives. He ordered his remaining ships to push forward toward Earth. It was a desperate move, driven by pride rather than strategy. Earth's defensive grid was waiting. As the Council ships approached, hundreds of small, automated platforms activated around the planet. They projected a web of energy that disrupted the Council ships' engines. Paul Carson watched from the shield control center as the alien fleet slowed to a crawl. "They're trapped," he reported to President Morgan. "Their ships can barely move." Morgan nodded grimly. "Open a channel to Admiral Zexkuller's flagship." On his crippled ship, Zexkuller received the human transmission. President Morgan's face appeared on his screen. "Admiral," Morgan said calmly, "your fleet is disabled. Your council is divided. Further resistance will only result in unnecessary deaths. I invite you to discuss terms." Zexkuller stared in shock. How had it come to this? The mighty council fleet defeated in days by a species they had dismissed for thousands of years. Throughout the solar system, Earth reclaimed its outer colonies. The Phoenix fleet pushed the front line beyond Sol into neighboring systems. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Council faced a military defeat, and humanity was just getting started. Dr. Samantha Ellis stared at her screen in amazement. She had been working day and night to decode the progenitor records provided by Vrillinox. Finally, the ancient symbols made sense. "I found something," she announced to the room of scientists and military leaders. The progenitors left behind a device called the Nexus. From these descriptions, it appears to be some kind of superweapon. President Morgan leaned forward. "Where is it?" "A rogue planet deep in the galactic core," Samantha replied. "These coordinates will take us there." News of this discovery spread quickly through both human and council intelligence networks. It wasn't long before Karl Thax and his loyalist faction learned of it too. "We must secure this weapon before the humans," Karl Thax told his followers. "With progenitor technology, we can end this war and restore the council's dominance." Both sides prepared expeditions to reach the Nexus first. Earth assembled a special forces team led by Major Steve Peterson. They boarded the fastest ship in the Phoenix fleet, ready for the dangerous journey to the galactic core. "This mission is top priority," Commander Harris told Peterson. "If Kralthax gets control of a progenitor superweapon, everything we've fought for could be lost." Peterson's team included the best soldiers Earth had to offer, along with Dr. Ellis and 2 council defectors who could help translate any progenitor writings they found. Their ship jumped into the swirling heart of the galaxy, where stars crowded so close together that the sky was never dark. Navigating here was extremely dangerous, with radiation and gravitational forces that could tear ships apart. After 3 difficult jumps, they found it. A dark planet floating alone, far from any star. Sensors detected artificial structures on the surface. "We're picking up another ship approaching," Peterson's pilot reported. Council design. A sleek alien vessel moved into orbit opposite them. It carried Council Commander Kel Sherim and his elite team, sent by Kralthax to secure the Nexus. Peterson made a quick decision. "We can't fight them here. We both came for the same thing. Let's reach the surface first." Their ship dove toward the planet. The Council vessel followed close behind. Both landing parties reached the surface within minutes of each other, racing toward a massive structure that rose from the barren landscape. It was clearly progenitor in design, geometric shapes of an unknown metal that seemed to glow from within. As both teams approached the entrance, ancient defense systems suddenly activated. Energy beams shot from the walls. The ground shook. Both humans and aliens were forced to take cover. "We can't get past those defenses," Peterson's second-in-command shouted over the noise. Peterson looked across the battlefield at Commander Kel Sherim. Their eyes met, and a moment of understanding passed between them. "We need to work together," Peterson called out to the alien commander. "Neither of us can reach the Nexus alone." Kel Sherim hesitated, then nodded. "Temporary alliance. Until we reach the weapon." The combined teams used their different skills and technologies to overcome the ancient defenses. Human soldiers provided covering fire, while Council technicians disabled force fields. Dr. Ellis and a Council scientist worked together to decode the door mechanisms. After hours of careful progress, they reached the central chamber. A glowing sphere floated in the center, suspended in an energy field. The Nexus, Kel-Shirim breathed. Dr. Ellis studied the controls around the sphere. "This isn't what we thought," she said slowly. "It's not a weapon at all." "What is it then?" Peterson asked. "It's a communication device," Ellis replied, "designed to contact progenitors in another galaxy." Peterson and Kel-Shirim exchanged looks. All this effort, the race across the galaxy, for a communication tool. "Should we activate it?" Kel-Shirim asked. Peterson nodded. "That's why we came." Together, they stepped forward and placed their hands on the control panel. The sphere began to pulse with light. Ancient machinery hummed to life around them. A holographic message appeared, speaking in a language neither human nor council member had heard before. Yet somehow, everyone understood. "Descendants," the message began. "If you have found this nexus, you must unite. The Void Harbingers approach your galaxy. Only together will you survive what comes." The message showed terrifying images of an armada of dark ships, utterly alien in design, destroying entire star systems. Peterson and Kel-Shirim looked at each other again, no longer as enemies, but as allies facing a common threat. The progenitor message changed everything. Major Peterson and Commander Kel-Shirim returned to their respective leaders with the same urgent warning. A force called the Void Harbingers was approaching the galaxy, capable of destroying all life. 2 weeks later, President Morgan stood in a large circular room on neutral ground, a space station orbiting a lifeless planet between Earth and Council space. Across from him stood Supreme Leader Vex Thelos, the highest authority in the Galactic Council. 3,000 years of watching us," Morgan said, "and now we meet as equals." Vex Thelos's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Perhaps we should have introduced ourselves properly long ago." The 2 leaders sat at a round table, surrounded by advisors from both sides. The room was tense. Just weeks earlier, they had been at war. "The Void Harbingers will reach our galaxy within 5 years, Vex Thelos said. "Our scientists have confirmed the progenitor warning. We cannot face this threat alone." Morgan nodded. "Neither can we. I propose an alliance, sharing technology, resources, and military forces." The negotiations lasted 3 days. Both sides had concerns and demands. The Council wanted guarantees that humans wouldn't expand too rapidly. Earth wanted full membership in the Council with equal voting rights. In the end, they reached an agreement. Earth would share its unique technologies, the jump drive, shield systems, and the unpredictable combat tactics that had proven so effective. The Council would open its vast knowledge base to humanity and welcome Earth as a full member. "This marks a new chapter for both our peoples," Morgan said as they signed the formal treaty. Back on Earth, Admiral Jack Freeman, promoted after his discovery of the monitoring station, oversaw the integration of human and alien military forces. It wasn't easy. Centuries of mistrust couldn't be erased overnight. "Remember," he told a group of human and council officers, "we were enemies yesterday, allies today. Trust will come with time." In a joint research facility on Luna, Dr. Ellis worked alongside council scientist Xinvorex to develop defenses against the Void Harbingers. "Your species approaches problems differently than ours," Xinvorex noted as they studied the progenitor data. "You make intuitive leaps where we would follow methodical steps." "Different doesn't mean wrong," Ellis replied. "Together, we see solutions neither would find alone." Their collaboration produced results faster than anyone expected. New weapons, improved shields, and better sensors, all designed specifically to counter the coming threat. On Mars, now rebuilt with Council help, Major Peterson trained the first Joint Defense Force. Human soldiers learned to work alongside aliens with different bodies, senses, and fighting styles. "The Void Harbingers won't expect us to be working together," Peterson told them. "That's our advantage." Commander Kel-Shirim, now his co-commander, agreed. "Our different approaches to combat will make us stronger together." 6 months after the treaty signing, the first joint fleet launched from Earth orbit, 300 ships. half human, half council, departed to establish an early warning line at the galaxy's edge. President Morgan and Supreme Leader Vex Thelos watched from the observation deck as the fleet jumped away. "Do you think we will survive what's coming?" Vex Thelos asked quietly. Morgan smiled. "Humanity has always been good at beating the odds. And now we're not alone." On the flagship of the Joint Fleet, Admiral Freeman stood with his mixed crew of humans and former Council enemies. The ship bore a new insignia: Earth and the Council homeworld together in a field of stars. "Ready for jump," his first officer reported. Freeman nodded. "Take us out." The ship disappeared in a flash of blue light, heading toward the darkness between galaxies where the enemy approached. 3,000 years of observation, a brief war, and finally alliance. Earth had found its place among the stars, not as a conquered world or even as a conqueror, but as an equal partner in the galaxy's defense. And if the progenitors were watching from wherever they had gone, they would be proud of their descendants, all of them, standing together against the darkness to come.